Good news for the New York Jets. They're winning the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes, and they got an extra draft pick going into next year's draft. I mean, let's be honest, those are the two biggest headlines. The Jets are the only winless team in the NFL, the favorites to get the number one pick in the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes. And then right after the game, decided to trade Steve McLendon to the Buccaneers, the Jets receiving a 6th-round pick in 2022, while also adding a 7th-round pick of the Jets in the deal, going back to the Buccaneers for 2023. Where to start? Do we start with the family bickering between Greg Williams and Adam Gase, where on the broadcast it said that they had to have a private meeting, and then after the game, Gase was basically trying to play it off, saying, we're all good. We're good. But it was interesting in this game because it was the tale of two coaches. So one of their coaches made a statement on Friday. His unit came ready to play, and that was Greg Williams. And the defense, look, they had their problems, but they played especially well in the second half. They were getting to the quarterback, and look, they gave up 24 points. That's reasonable, especially with the field position and the offense having 4 of the first 6 series end in a 3-and-out. So they were on the field a lot. And the other one was the offense that got rid of Le'Veon Bell, which clearly did not sit well with people and didn't really see the effort. And, I mean, this was all the hallmarks of a Adam Gase game. The countless wide receiver pick plays, when it's 3rd and long, trying to run a bubble screen to the wide receiver instead of running, a halfback screen to try to take advantage of the pass rush. One of the things was Perriman was back in this game and actually showed some explosives, got open, but Flacco couldn't hit him down the field to start the game. But I don't know, it looked like Miami's cornerbacks couldn't stay with him, so let's just get rid of that game plan. Let's not even try another shot down the field. So looked like something might work, and Gase went away from it. Then in the third quarter, basically gave up when they got too far behind and tried to kick that long field goal, and the offense was shut out. And the point differential and the beginning of the season looks eerily similar to 1996, where the Jets went 1-15. And I think it's clear we are on the way to another 1-15 season, probably 0-16 at this point. So there's a lot to talk about this game, especially outside of the locker room. But let's start with this with Adam Gase. And I had 2 thoughts on this. I mean, we all know he's a god-awful head coach. We know that he has no business being this team's coach, and players have regressed under him. There's no question about that. I think we can all agree on that. But I was really thinking about this, and of course, Fire Adam Gase was trending on Twitter, and I've been saying Adam Gase should go, and he should. But I was thinking about 2 things with the Adam Gase firing. Number one, if you fire him now, you probably hurt your chances to get the number 1 pick. And look, let him finish the season. Who cares at this point? Just let him finish out the season. The Jets will bring in a new staff. They will get rid of Adam Gase. But let him finish the season, because Greg Williams, if you looked at that defense, they actually looked a bit inspired. And the interesting thing is there were reports, too, that if the Jets get rid of one of them, they're going to get rid of both Williams and Gase, which Jim Bob Cooter takes over. So, but the other thing I was thinking about with Gase, too, is if you really don't like Adam Gase, what's the point of firing him? Why give him the easy way out? Let him finish this. Don't give him a paid vacation for the next 2 or 3 months. Make him come in and work. And I know that sounds terrible, but at this point, the Jets aren't going anywhere. They're the worst team in football. Joe Douglas clearly has his eyes on 2021. And in a way, the only way it kind of makes sense to keep Gase throughout the whole year is, look, it shows whoever's the head coach the next time around, they're going to give them an opportunity. And I know the Jets have this notion that they have a quick trigger finger, but this shows that at least they'll give the coach time, even when that coach is god-awful. I don't really buy into that too much, but it is a thing. And look, the only other time they're going to fire him is the bye. They're not going to get better. They're also not going to fire him when he's got the backup quarterback, and that's just the way it is. And look, I want Gase gone as much as the next person. I was calling for his job last year. But at this point, it's not going to make a difference by firing him now. And it's very interesting, and this was a big thing I took from this game, which is a comforting thing, and I know that's rare to do these days with the Jets, so I took this as a bit of comfort. To me, one of the biggest reasons people want Adam Gase fired, and I get it, is because you don't want this cloud hanging over the organization. Because there's this fear that Adam Gase has so much power in the Jets building that somehow, by some way, he's going to have a job next year. And basically, the thought is he's going to use this excuse. Well, he didn't get to pick his quarterback, even though he's brought in for Sam and said he wanted to work with Sam. And he's going to come up with all these excuses that, it's the players, not me. But let's be honest, if he goes 1-15, which he looks like he's on, there's no way he survives. And to me, the biggest thing I took from this game was Joe Douglas is in charge. And if you're worried about Adam Gase, I do think there's a little bit of comfort in that Joe Douglas is in charge. And look, I have more faith in Joe Douglas, obviously, than Adam Gase. And I think Joe Douglas can build this the right way. It's just, there was nothing to really work from. And unfortunately for his draft class, they've been injured. And I know people have been eyeing these guys, but we have to remember they didn't have an OTA, they didn't have a training camp. And at this point in a lost season, make sure they're 100% ready to go, not risking any further injury, even, especially because we saw what happened to Becton. Don't risk further injury. It's just stupid. But it was comforting because of the trade. And I get that this is a clubhouse leader, but the Jets got another draft pick for a guy that's on an expiring contract. And I'm going to actually do a series on these 5 guys the Jets should trade, 5 guys the Jets shouldn't trade at the upcoming deadline. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of those upcoming episodes. But one of the things you'll notice is there'll be expiring contracts and just getting something for them. And that was the case in this situation. You trade him to a contender, you trade him to a team where he's worked with Todd Bowles before, you get a higher 6th-round pick, which could give you some depth or at least gives you another piece if you want to trade up in the draft next year to get a better player. I have no problem with it, but this was the comforting thing, and this is what I've been trying to say, is the timing of this deal was very important because this came about 15 to 20 minutes after the press conference. So that tells me Joe Douglas was doing this deal. I mean, maybe he talked to Gase a little bit before the game, but they're worried about risking an asset. I don't think he would have been in there. But to me, it was very important because it shows Joe Douglas is running the show. And it doesn't look like he's running it through Adam Gase, which to me is incredibly important. Because if people are worried about Adam Gase having his claws so deep in this organization that he's going to stay, this to me is showing that, no, it's Joe Douglas' show. Adam Gase is just along for the ride for now. And that's encouraging. And I know it's very difficult with this whole situation, but Joe Douglas needs to be looking forward to next year. And it shows that he has a plan. He's focusing on building the offensive line. And more importantly, we're seeing it with Jamal. To me, it shows he had the foresight to say, look, we know this team's going to be bad. I can say I think they're going to be good, but I can just tell by my talent they're not going to be good this year. So I might as well get as much as I can for Jamal, not pay him $20 million a year, and not have him here when we're 0-5 and he's going to be complaining and want to get out of town. So I have to give Joe Douglas credit for that foresight. I give him credit for getting a 6th-round pick. And to me, he's announcing the Jets, they're having a fire sale. Now, there's certain pieces I wouldn't get rid of. I know Schefter reported that Quinnen Williams teams have been calling. Now, last year was reported team was going to give a ransom for him. Now, if it's an offer where you look at it like the Jamal case and some team offers something stupid for Quinnen Williams, then you make the trade. But outside of some offer where it's like, okay, we couldn't say no to that offer, you don't trade him. But, I mean, there's expiring contracts on this team. Like Avery Williamson, I really want him extended. I think he's a very good football player. Once again, flying around the field today. But if he's not in this team's long-term plans, you might as well get draft picks for these guys. You might as well get them for some value for next year. Instead of just losing them for nothing, just letting them walk in free agency and absolutely getting nothing for them. So I have to give them credit for having that foresight and Joe Douglas for having that foresight. But in terms of the game, I mean, what do you want to talk about? I mean, I guess the only other positive was, for the first time in over a decade, the Jets had a positive butt reference, which was the butt interception by Marcus May and making a great play. And he looked more comfortable today. Jets were trying him in that Jamal strong safety role. Hadn't really been working. Moved him to free safety. He looked a little bit more comfortable there. I still think May is a valuable building block for this team. And at this point, you got to get the young players in. And this is what was frustrating with Gase. I mean, geez, what doesn't frustrate you about Gase? I mean, the running game can't get going. We're running Frank Gore to death, except when it's 3rd and 1 in obvious short yard situations, but we won't give him the ball. I mean, P. Ryan showed me some nice bursts. He had that big drop, but, he had higher yards per carry than Gore. I think he should be getting the majority of the touches and starting the game instead of Gore. And the kid Ty Johnson they picked up from Detroit had the 2 most explosive runs they've had all season. And then they decided to take him out and not put him back in. He's a guy I want to see get more carries because he had a nice burst. He had good open field speed. He was able to get around the edge. That was exciting. It was like, oh my God, the Jets had an exciting offensive play. I didn't even know these existed in 2020. So I want to see more of him. I don't need to see more of Frank Gore. And honestly, if a team came to the Jets and said, look, we understand Gore is a veteran on your team, but we'll give you a late round pick for him so he can be our goal line back. If I'm the Jets, I'm doing it. I mean, at this point, Gore's not helping this team for the future. And I know he was pissed off, saying we can't effing show up in just the 4th quarter. But Frank, they didn't even score in the 4th quarter. I don't know what you're talking about showing up. I mean, I could go on and on and on about Gase's terrible play calling once again, his baffling use of personnel, and really, this is, I think, a moment where this was the final nail in Gase's coffin. Now, he's not going to get fired this week. I do believe the Johnsons will give him to the bye at the very least, or they will give him to the end of the season. And like I said before, at this point, if you bring in Greg Williams, what's that? Maybe an extra win in the win column, but I don't really trust him to fully be the head coach. There really isn't a better option on this roster. And look, if they're going to be terrible, get that number 1 pick, then get Gase out at the end of the year. So it's one of those things like, do we really want to give Gase, let him off the hook for this mess? No, let him suffer through the next 2 months like we all are. Don't fire him. Let him stew in this. Make it so he will never get another job in the NFL because of how bad he is. And I'll be shocked if he gets another, maybe quarterback coach, but I don't see him ever being an OC. Because there was a great stat during the game where it looked at his offenses as 2015, and the highest, I think it was 21st for the Bears. So the best offensive guru could do was 21 in total offense in the NFL. That's great. By my calculations, there are still 32 teams in the NFL, so that's still bottom half. But this was once again a game where some positives on the defense. I mean, Braden Mann is a good punter, I guess, because he was probably the best offensive weapon the Jets had in this game. Sad but true. But once again, Becton and Darnold not playing. Do not rush them back. It's a lost season. Don't let them go until they're 100%. Obviously, the big trade in this game, which I think shows that Joe Douglas has the control of the organization. He's making moves and he's gearing up for 2021. I think he's going to wipe the coaching staff clean at the end of the season. I don't think they're going to do it during the middle of the season because at this point, it's not going to do much good anyways. It really isn't. Unless it gets to the point where Darnold continues to struggle and you really think that, okay, if we switch for the last couple games to help Darnold look good because we're probably going to have to trade him at the end of the year to increase his value, that's the only reason I could see moving on from the head coach. But other than that, I mean, at this point, it's not if but when. But if I'm Christopher Johnson and I'm Joe Douglas, I am talking to Gase and I'm saying, look, we got to play the young kids. We got to get P. Ryan more carries. Frank Gore should not be leading our backs in carries. With an 0-6 season, that does not make any sense. We need to get these receivers more involved. Perriman was beating DBs, but we couldn't hit them. I understand it's going to be limited because Darnold has more mobility. This offense is supposed to be designed for him, and I do think they're an upgraded offense with Darnold under center, so they are limited in terms of Flacco, but still, I mean, to get shut out in the NFL today, it's almost an accomplishment, especially for the offensive guru. I mean, it really is. But once again, the big news is, the Jets are in first place for Trevor Lawrence. That's good. They got an extra draft pick. That's good, and it's a positive butt association for once for the Jets. But outside of that, it's basically the same. All of the Gase hallmarks were there. Undisciplined, unprepared, not adjusting, not ready to go. And just look at the players. They've quit on him. He's lost this locker room. They know the Le'Veon Bell situation was him. They have no faith in him. The only guys that have any faith are that defense, because they're trying to show something for Greg Williams. And look, Greg Williams, we know he made the headlines this week, basically calling out the offense, and the defense wanted to prove a point. And did they look like a great defense in this league? No, but did they look like a competent defense and a defense that kept this horrible offense in the game? Yeah, they did. They showed a lot more life than that offense did. That offense looked dead. And I have to give that defense credit because they were on the field a lot. 3 and out, and the Jets went 0 for 11 on third down. 0 for 11, and oh, by the way, they took a 28-yard sack. I think the defense at least has shown you that May, Quinnen Williams, and Bryce Huff are some guys that you have some building blocks. And look, this defensive line, Fatukasi's shown some good potential, and I think that's another reason why they made the trade. Not only to get better, but to give these young guys a chance, because one of the few positions the Jets have some depth is the defensive line. Let's see what the young kids could do, especially when you're not going anywhere this season. And once again, I have to give Joe Douglas credit because he made a move. He got an extra pick for a guy that wasn't going to be here. And to me, it's good news for Jet fans because it's showing and I think helping alleviate that fear that Gase is the one calling the shots. No, to me, it's Joe Douglas at this point. And I know Jet fans want Gase gone, but at this point, firing him now probably won't do much. And I know that there will be a sense of relief just because it's like, okay, there's no chance he's going to be the head coach. And I get that fear, and I get why people want him gone. But look, if you want that number one pick, you might as well just stick with Gase because he's going to do a great job of probably getting that number one pick. But at this point, it doesn't make sense. They're not going to fire him with a backup quarterback. I think they're going to give him at least to the bye. Maybe then they'll make a change. But look, Gase is done. There's no way. He's lost this locker room. They don't respect him. You could tell. You had two tales of coaches this week. One coach called out the head coach and basically called out the offense saying they weren't doing their job. And guess what? The defense came out and actually played pretty decently. Showed me something. The offensive coach, meanwhile, cut the team's best offensive weapon who was well-liked in the locker room, and the players responded by not putting a single point on the scoreboard. So, message loud and clear. The writing is on the wall, and Adam Gase will not be the head coach past this season. Gase closed. That's going to do it for this episode of Rich Sports Talk. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, remember to hit that subscribe button because we're going to have some special episodes before the trade deadline. 5 New York Jets that could be dealt before the deadline, and 5 New York Jets that the Jets shouldn't deal before the deadline. You're not going to want to miss this episode, especially now that we're already seeing the fire sale starting to begin and the Jets already making moves before the deadline. So I promise you're not going to want to miss that. So hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it. But until next time, this is Rich Sports Talk, your home for great New York Jets content and weekly recaps. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.